I'm always curious to hear on how you go about the spacing and planting everything, because I see there's 3 rows of this inside here.
So we planted this, what was it, yesterday?
Yep,
2 days, 2 days ago.
2 days.
Right, so this is bok choy. Half the bed's bok choy and half the bed's kohlrabi. Probably need to water it in here soon. But yeah, so each plant has its like own, desired size you want to harvest it at, right?
Mm-hmm.
And depending, you can harvest certain things smaller if that's what your market wants, right? Or you can let it get bigger. In the market garden, usually you can plant things more intensively, like closer together, and still get, a good sized crop, right? So this here, bok choy and kohlrabi, it has like the same spacing requirements. That's why we planted it together.
And then for these lines, this is just
Yeah.
show, I guess, what are the lines, the purpose for that?
Right, so we have a set of strings that we use. So we string it up every time we flip a bed, right? Because over time, if you didn't put the string down, like the bed can start to go one way or the other. And, I really like to have straight lines and everything be square, right? And it makes it easier to plant, right?
Yeah.
Because you just know, like, when you're planting that where the edges are.
And then now where we're standing at, because I see there's little pockets in between these two. Are you doing anything between these?
No, so these are just our pathways. This is where we walk. So we try not to step on the beds, right? Because we don't want it to compact the soil.
It's the same idea with like a tractor going over ground.
Right.
Same thing as walking on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we just wood chip the pathways. We think that's better than leaving the soil bare, right?
Yep.
So that's kind of breaking down and feeding the rows beside it. And, just supporting the soil life and kind of minimizes our compaction, I would think, just by dispersing our weight. But
yeah. And then in terms of just tracking everything, because we have 2 beds here that you just mentioned you just finished. You just mentioned you just planted these.
Right.
These seem to be more ahead of the process yet. How are you managing all this? Is there a spreadsheet you've got going on, or?
Yeah, so I'd like to say we have it all planned out, but it really takes a lot of experience to be able to make a spreadsheet. I've done it before, but make a spreadsheet and be able to stick to that plan, because it's constantly changing, right? The weather has a lot to do with it. Like, we had tomatoes in those 10 beds over there, and we had to take them out just because it rained for 2 weeks straight, right?
Did it just kill the whole harvest of that?
Pretty much. Like, the tomatoes will split, they're not as good, and they'll get foliar diseases and stuff like that. But
because that's another interesting thing too about agriculture, is weather dependent on when you think of droughts. But then I remember on the farm I worked on in Pennsylvania, he mentioned how it rained for nearly a month straight, and so it makes sense. It's arguably worse to have flooding like that than it is to have a drought, because it just destroyed everything.
Especially if you have some irrigation, then you'd rather be a little dry than really wet for the most part. By having loose soil and high organic matter in your soils, you can kind of be on either side of that and be fine. But
it has really good drainage, and then it also has the ability to hold the water if it's not getting enough. So that comes back to the structure with all the roots we leave in the ground and everything that's building up in there.
And that just
not tilling it.
And that just gets better. So like the beds that we built first, they're a lot more. They hold on to water a lot better, it seems like, and even if it rains a lot, they're gonna drain good.
Should we go walk? I'm curious to see what the first bed is then.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are these for?
Yeah, so these kind of hold up our peppers. I don't know if this is the best way. We're still trialing, like, how is the best way to string them up, right? Because they only get so tall. Tomatoes, you have to use T-posts and weave them, but peppers, we're just trying to figure out what's the best way to do that. And we just have them tied with some string here, and it seems to be working pretty good, but makes it easy to harvest that way.
And then I guess whenever too you come out here every day, do you have a certain checklist of things that you go through in your head to make sure everything's good? Or
right.
You go
yeah. So we have like kind of our routine chores, right? So we have to water the greenhouse. We have any like direct seeded stuff, we got to make sure it's watered, so we can get good germination. And then picking, so we pick like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So after all those things are done, taking care of the egg layers, whatnot, then we can kind of start on the projects and just go and list a priority, right? And so that could be planting a bed, that could be taking something out,
Build new beds, as we've been
Yeah,
doing recently. So.
right. Putting mulch down, whatever it might be, and that changes every day. So
Yeah.
you're constantly thinking about it, right? And what is the next thing? What makes the most sense? And that's where experience comes in.
How long does a bed take to make? Like just a brand new bed?
Yeah. So, well, like just from straight grass, you have to tarp it from, in the summer you could tarp it for a few months, but it takes a lot longer if it's colder. So you're talking about probably 6 months to kill all the weeds, all the grass, and then to build the bed, it really doesn't take long. So most of your time is in,
Waiting.
getting rid of the permanent grass there.
That's another thing that I'm trying to get consumers to really understand is just the time aspect of it all. Not even to just grow. You just mentioned just to set up. Someone definitely does not realize that at all. And then whenever, say you plant this plant, how long before you could have your first harvest?
Right. So something like peppers, we start in the greenhouse, and so they'll be in there for probably 6 weeks, and we have to start them like when it's colder out, right? So we can plant them early, and so it'll take like 6 weeks in there, and then once it's warm enough to plant them out here, you're probably talking about another 50, 60 days before you get the first pepper,
Because I'm trying to just think on just for the folks out there. I mean, I know they could just start out just having a simple garden in the backyard, but say they might have interest, they have some land like right here, and they might see the potential of growing this